There we go. 2 bots, no questions asked. This is the 27th of January in 2022. It's the Loose Screws podcast. And actually, before I get into it proper, I want to say that there's been problems with episode 118 not showing up on some platforms, Spotify and I guess Google specifically. And I'm trying like crazy to make it work. I don't get why it shows up in some places and not others because they all source from Anchor. So I'm sorry if that happened to you, but we did have an episode last week and all of these lovely gentlemen were kind enough to create it for us. And
I'm just amazed anybody cares. That's great.
So what I think happened, I think Spotify lumped us in with Neil Young and just started scrubbing all of our...
He said, he saw us, that's what it is. It's a bunch of crusty old people complaining, and they just thought, Neil Young, delete, Neil Young, delete, Neil Young,
Shouldn't he really just change his name to Neil Old at this point?
That was pretty great. We'll end on that. So, joining me tonight is Commander Chig. Hi.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Excellent. Commander Hate.
Hey, what's up?
All right. And Commander Lieutenant Commander Data.
Good evening.
And Commander Nurgle.
Hola, senors.
I don't know why you got a weird tone of voice, Nurgle. I'm sorry. It's because you're at the bottom of the list. So, what's been shaking? What's been happening? Not that much. There's still no dev streams. I think I'm pretty certain that some of them got sick over the holidays and stuff like that. But things are starting to come back. We did have an update, and there's lots of drama. And so that'll be mostly what's going on. I think the headline from the update, since it doesn't really have a headline, is probably the BGS. That I think that's probably the more important thing here that maybe gets buried a little bit. So that and a few new bugs. So anywho.
Yeah, a few new bugs, yeah. A few.
Oh, and I want to ask for the help of the listeners. I want to catalog a little bit of data for something that I've been thinking about as far as Odyssey performance is concerned. So all of that we're planning on getting through tonight, and we're going to do it in less than an hour and a half because that's when Shake has to leave. So,
you guys can carry on without me after. It's fine.
We couldn't possibly. No, we couldn't possibly.
Yeah, that sounds really hard. I don't know. So, Chig, what's going on, man? How you been? How are the aliens treating you?
Well, I'm treating them like I can't think of something I treat badly, like a JN Trax.
Shoot!
First off, I want to say I'm super happy that you're here. The weeks that you're here are always much better. Things seem to stay on track.
You guys did a great job last week.
It was actually Lieutenant Commander Data this week instead of just Lieutenant Commander Data because I'm a slacking lazy bitch and I get rid of the commander.
Yeah.
I have been killing a lot of bugs. Still working on my Phantom. I'm now, working my way into the Hydra a little bit. I think I'll be able to get it as I get better. So I've got confidence I will get a Hydra solo here eventually. Still working on the CQC thing. I was targeting this coming Tuesday's CQC night to get it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in enough game time between now and then to do it. But I'm within a week to 10 days of finally hitting Hexa Elite. Is that what it would be? So
is there 6 of them now?
Yeah, there's 6 of the goddamn things. Plant gunning, stumbling around on the ground, elite.
Well, no, it's shooting people on the ground.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Combat. It's not just stumbling.
It's shooting. It's shotgun to the face, is what it is.
Maybe that's why it took me so long to get it. Wait, it took me like 5 days. Never mind. That one's one. That might be the easiest one to get of all the elite ranks that are trade. But real life, Izzy is in the home stretch for her play she's in. So this Saturday is the competition. It's a 1-act play, and it's a competition, I guess, Minnesota State High School League and stuff. And this is like one of the sectionals or regionals. I don't know what.
So how?
Term.
Yeah, I'm boggled by this. How is like it's a stage play, right?
Yep.
And it's a competition though. So it's like
Correct.
Is it like a one act? Everybody does a one act.
Everybody does a one act play, and then there's 3 judges, and then they decide who moves on. And she's a freshman in high school, so for her to be chosen to be in it when there was only 4 speaking roles, and really one role has like 5 lines, and then so it's 3 speaking roles and stuff. So I'm kind of excited. I'm also kind of freaking annoyed because like everybody can go to sporting events and stuff. That's still going on. Just wear a mask and you can come to the sporting events. But for this play this weekend, because of Omicron, they are not going to allow parents and stuff to come watch these performances, which it's really annoying. I mean, parents, I'm not looking for sympathy or, poor, I'm just stating a fact. I've been driving her to play practice, picking her up all the time, script reading with her over Christmas break, practicing, going through all the stuff with it, all excited to see this thing done. And it's like, oh no, parents aren't allowed to come. That to me, that's just fucking bullshit when you can do so many other things right now.
Yeah, what a total, I mean, well, this is classic for our society, right? Is that sports have a value that is just immeasurable and everything else is like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But sports, oh my God. Like a TV package that doesn't have sports bundled in? Well, no, we're not going to sell that because sports is where all the money is.
65,000 people at football games last weekend. Each game, 4 games times 4, 260,000.
Highest paid college employees are all the football coaches.
Yep, absolutely. It's ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, I'm a sports fan. I'll talk sports all day, and they do generate a lot of money. But something like this is just asinine and annoying, and
points out that it's about money and not really safety, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, that was in doubt.
Was that ever in doubt from
but a plain as
March
day
2020 in doubt? No.
Yeah.
So there's that. So hopefully that goes well. Hopefully they do they succeed and she moves on. Otherwise, I guess they're doing Romeo and Juliet in the spring, and she's not sure if she's going to try out for that one yet or not. But if they do advance from this, then the next competition they'll still keep practicing the same play and everything, and then compete at the state level. So that'll be kind of cool. We'll see how it goes. So
awesome. Cool.
That's my story.
Nice. Hey, what's up? What do you got for me this week?
You say hate?
Hate, yeah. Did it cut me off?
Be right back. Daughter mad.
Oh, sorry. My microphone covers up that part of my screen. Hey, you guys can't type to me because of where I put my microphone.
Okay.
Sorry. Dana, how you doing, man? What you up to?
I am doing well. This week in game has been a game of satisfactory still for me. I'm really, really enjoying it. As they say, the factory must grow. So yeah, I could say what I've been doing in that game, but it would mean anything to only a couple of people that might listen to this show. So yeah.
If you want to, you can start talking about it. I'll go do something else for a bit. That's fine.
All right. So you start out crafting things by hand. All right. You have to dismantle your drop pod. Okay. That's probably, is shit gone yet?
He's gone.
Okay.
Funny.
But yeah, I've been around in voice a good bit of this week, just playing this other game.
Sweet. Rad. Okay. Nurgle, what's the latest from I don't know, Bleacher Thievery Central?
Bleacher Thievery. Nothing nearly that entertaining. It's just been a really crazy busy week, and because somebody, and by somebody I mean my boss's boss's boss, who reports directly to the mayor, decided it would be just a wonderful idea for us to evaluate every employee every 3 months. So everybody
do this themselves, I'm assuming, right?
No.
Can we move this suggestion over to FDev?
Yeah, but they don't keep people that long. So.
Oh no!
But yeah, so he made the decision last year that we're going to do quarterly evaluations, because clearly we don't have enough other
And-
shit to do.
And he'll read every single one, right? And consider it appropriately.
It is not a by the numbers evaluation. It is a essay evaluation. Yes.
What?
Yes. I write an evaluation for all 15 of my direct reports every 3 months because this is just a brilliant idea.
Wow.
And
you
I
just need some boilerplate ones that then you just
Yeah.
put a name at the top. And
but that's what
Variables in MS Word.
That's what it turns into.
Yeah.
Because in over a 3-month span, most of them, they show up, they do their job, they go home. There's nothing particularly special or bad about what they're doing. They're doing their job. And it's a spectacular waste of time. So
there's no time to change in 3 months. Like they're not doing any long-term changes.
No, it's utterly ridiculous. But that's tied up most of my week is trying to get a lot of those done. And it's a fairly busy time of year for us too.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I like, Haight and I were talking before we started recording tonight. I think he's 4% up on me on the race to combat elite. And yeah, he went from 10% down to 4% up in a week where I didn't play and he was home on COVID lockdown. That's what happens. That's what happens. So the only thing I got accomplished is over the weekend, I was able to play some and finally stocked up all of my raw materials and came back in from the Crystal Shard site. So
nice.
I'm going to be doing some engineering this week and probably build an AX ship for the first time and get a chance to come out, and shoot some bugs.
Good.
Excellent. Haight, you're back.
I'm back.
What's been going on, man? How are you doing on your elite rank? We haven't been talking about you.
Well, once I realized that I had caught up and I'd passed him, and then I realized that he was out at the Crystal Shard sites, 1,500 light years away.
Is that when you decided to stop pretending you had COVID and go back to work?
Actually, today and yesterday, my boss texted me 6 hours before our shift started and said, "Hey, we don't have any parts. You can either not come to work and not get paid or pointed, or you can come to work and do nothing and then get in trouble for sleeping."
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's paraphrased.
Yes, it is. But so I beat Halo 3's campaign so that I could return the favor of him going out to the Crystal Shard sites now that I've taken the lead, so he can get back, so it can be a competition. Because if I did, get to Combat Elite in 10 days when I was in COVID lockdown, it wouldn't be sportsmanlike, and then this would mean nothing.
Thank you for giving an old man a sporting chance.
So you finished the fight.
Yeah, I beat Halo 3 in 2 days. I felt bad.
Is that all?
Most.
No, I meant from the theme song that was being hummed there. Didn't want to talk over the horns. Okay.
That's all.
We have issues.
Yeah.
Duh.
Cool.
For any new listeners out there, we have issues.
All right. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad that's going well. At this rate, I'm pretty sure you're going to beat me. I'm still not grinding at it, although I think it's been accelerating for me a little bit, just because almost the only thing I've been doing is CQC or Thargoids, and that does tend to push the rank. Although I don't know if it's the fastest way to do it anymore. But yeah, some CQC, some Tuesday night, good CQC night. I feel like I've basically figured out how to do that in a way where I can usually decide to turn up or down my death rate, in a particular match. You know what I mean? Like I can, maybe I don't get a lot of kills, but I could choose to survive a little longer if I want to.
I'm a huge fan of how good the people who've been showing up on a regular basis have become. I mean, Crash is a different pilot compared to when he first started coming into CQC. It's unbelievable. He got his first win the other night, I think, among the whole group. So he's come a long ways. And the other guys, Dio, he's been good since he first started, but he's gotten better as we've gone along, and it's
Oh, yeah.
impressive. So
It's done a ton for my flying ability. It's great.
yeah, it teaches you a lot about pit management and thruster control and FA off if you start toggling, or if you just go all off all the time. There's just so much you can learn.
Yeah,
especially a combat FA off. CQC is a good one because you're actually trying to fly into tight areas instead of just trying to get position on a ship. So it really hones in your FA off. So
absolutely. Cool.
So,
well, we've got some material to get through here. So, Nurgle, or Hate, whichever, would you guys want to rearrange a little bit? Because I know that BGS is going to be a little bit talked about for the sake of the update, because I think that's kind of the headline feature here. Unless you're about to tell me I'm wrong, but or do you want to do the typical order? What do you think?
I think let's knock out a real quick squad update because it's going to be fairly short, and then we can get into the discussion.
All right, here we go.
So how about we do a squad update? Squadron update.
It's the Chig one.
Oh, what was that? Random?
It was just further up in my list, I guess.
Okay. So
Nice.
Not a lot has changed from last week. We're still consolidating our position in Balmus, trying to gather up some of the system assets in there and collect some of the stations. We are in an election for control in Snoqui Xian, and then we'll be doing the same thing there. We'll start gathering assets and stations. We have gone back into expansion as of today. It is from 6 Andromeda, which is what we wanted, so our target is going to be, we've been prepping Lambda Andromeda. We're trying to push out Snoqui Xian Future. We need them to retreat in order for us to expand in there. They are currently involved, tied 2-2 in an election with workers of Lambda Andromeda. So obviously we need workers to go ahead and win that election as quickly as possible so we can go ahead and retreat out the target. So that makes a space for us to expand into, the 3 steps that we have to go through to get in there. All of that is detailed in the standing orders post with everything we need to do and when we need to do it. And if you have any questions, Hate or I can answer them in the BGS forums.
Yes.
Yes.
My seal of approval. Yes.
Sweet. All right, thanks. And you know what? This, I think, is going to be a little quicker than usual as well. So let's kick over to Blame the Bard, Galnet commentary, another recording sent in from Jay Barron. So I'm going to get that now. I know this is a pretty short one, and then we'll get into the rest of the stuff. Here we go.
Welcome aboard the Tenadium Express. Attention all passengers, be on the lookout for an individual dressed in a gorilla costume. Grainy surveillance footage shows this person has abnormally large feet. They were last spotted near Storage Bay 4 an hour ago. If seen, do not approach, chase, or attack. Notify staff immediately. We begin our Galnet recap with Princess in Distress. Aisling Duval is concerned with long-distance disappearance of Orissa. She is suspicious of Imperial intelligence. However, the Senate is downplaying concerns and insisting that the Emperor is safe. This, however, remains to be seen. We move on to the Federation planning for less failure. Hudson delivered a speech to Congress touting the controversial spying program and continued to make noise about the Thargoids, Alliance, and Empire. Winters, however, had a rebuttal highlighting his failures, seeming to outweigh the success. And if you consider the controversial spying program a failure, you would see that Hudson had absolutely no successes. Alexandria's remains were discovered in a desolate location. This segment seems to be encrypted. Give me just a second here. Hold on. Okay. Clearance granted. Data corruption detected. Data integrity, 0%. Betcha the person in the gorilla suit had something to do with this. Well, the other point to this is that you could just go to the Discord and see for yourself the discussion about this segment. This does contain a lot of spoilers for the story, so if you haven't done it already, gone to the system and seen for yourself, please do so. Take the time, go out there and look. We move on to Riort, Out of Sorts, and Retorts. So the Chariot of Rhea? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. The megaship has been blockaded by system authority in Riort. The primary faction, Riort Mining something or other, refuses to allow Sirius Incorporated into its midst, claiming illegal activity. Li Young Rui doesn't challenge these claims and accusations of illegal activity, and it ensures that there be no disruption to commercial activity, which is apparently something that doesn't happen when you have a megaship full of people arriving to a system. There will be absolutely no commercial disruption. Okay, whatever. Bullshit, but we'll go with it. Moving on to our final story, Orisa addresses the distress. So the Senate shared a message to the Empire from Orisa saying, "Hey, I'm alive, don't worry." The Imperial media took it at face value. Aisling, however, is not convinced, sending Orisa an invitation for a party to see her in person. Can't really blame her. She's lost a lot of family and had several attacks attempted on her and her family over the years, so paranoia is understood. Quick episodes, we're going to move on to the CG prediction, War in Riort. So get your combat ships ready for a good time in Riort. And you're probably going to be able to choose between, of course, the mining faction or Li Young Rui. So, fate of the Alliance depends on you. All right, that was cringy as hell. Have a great night.
All right. So, hey, he got it right. He's been predicting the CG every time he couldn't be here on a Thursday, and hey, nailed one. Way to go. So, yeah, combat, Riort, mining, whatever versus Sirius. That should be fun, I guess. I'm not there. I'm out in the nebula. No rewards on offer, right? No, nothing besides the money,
system
I guess.
Permits, system permits.
Alioth and Sirius permits, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, those.
Get those a little if you haven't gotten them already, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so that might be valuable to somebody. Cool, good deal. Well, and I know that Baron is really hoping that he can steer people into the Discord for a more thorough discussion. He felt like the segments were a little long and he'd rather discuss and have interaction and stuff like that. So they are now, it's like, get the gist of it out there and get people on over to the Discord to have the further discussion, which I fully support, of course. Well,
you can really get a deeper look into the mind of this disturbed individual if you come
exactly
to the Discord. Very much worth it.
Right on. Okay, so update 10 came this week. What day was that? Was it Monday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Link in the show notes to the note sheet. The quick highlights that I jotted down, optimizations seemed to be the main thing they were going with. They did fix the hostile ships don't show as hostile bug, and supposedly fixed thermal conduit, although this would be the third or fourth time that they'd supposedly fixed thermal conduit. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it, so maybe it's really fixed this time. Along with that, there was a couple of random fourth time someone's typing. Fourth time's the charm. Okay. So along with that, there was a few random things. I jumped in and did some testing to see if the performance would improve, because there supposedly were some things around glass and some shadow shaders and things like that being optimized. I couldn't measure anything on my system in VR, which is a fairly special case, so I'm not that surprised. Some other people with totally different computers were saying that they had felt what they thought were noticeable changes, so maybe it's fine, or an improvement anyway. The big thing, well, Limpets didn't work, but then they fixed that in a matter of hours with a hot server hotfix. And so that doesn't matter. But over the course of the day, it became clear that SRV scooping was broken. You could, and poor Chig was basically patient zero testing this crap out.
The first time in years, probably, that he's been out to the Guardian sites.
It really wasn't. I went out there literally just like 3 weeks ago. I went out there because I wanted to try out the shard cannons and the plasmas because I was way out in the black when those dropped originally, so I didn't get the discounted price or anything, and I needed weapon blueprints. So I was just out there just a few weeks ago. So it's not like I was rusty and didn't know what the hell I was doing. I've done that many times. And I get out there. I actually parked my carrier at a Guardian site the night before, and I'm like, okay, tomorrow's patch day. I'll just, collect mats tomorrow. That's a good idea in case things go weird. Well, people are cracking jokes on the Discord because it seems like every time something breaks, it happens to be just what I happen to be doing. And that's what it was, is I got out of the SRV at a Guardian site, went and scooped an item, got it, no big deal, hit another panel, something fell out, went to scoop it because I needed it, and I couldn't. My SRV kind of pushed it, and then it disappeared. I'm like, well, that was weird. Weird stuff happens. All right, no big deal. I'll just, because it's this game, weird stuff happens. But I then thought that it was, a particular type of mat that was doing that. And so, because I would always hit the same panel first when I'd go to do a loop, and that happened to be the same mat. So it seemed like that mat was collectible and others weren't. Then started to discover, no, it was a case of you could collect one item, whether it was an engineering mat or whether it was something that took up inventory space. It didn't matter which one you grabbed. Once you grabbed something, you could not grab another item in the SRV at all. And
it looked like the little cargo acquired or item acquired that appears in the bottom left gets stuck. But I tried it just to see.
Yeah, but for me that wasn't the case because it would disappear. A couple times it stuck for a little while and then it would go away. So it didn't just stay there stuck on that. Like some people are experiencing that. I saw screenshots and stuff of people experiencing that exact issue. So then I, continued to test and was testing different items and stuff and trying, I discovered that I could either reboard my ship and then jump back out, but seriously, drive back to the ship, board, and then drive back into the instance, or I could log back out and log back in and could always grab just one item. And, people are like, well, do Horizons. And I'm like, well, I haven't gone in an SRV since Odyssey launched in Horizons. So I knew that my keybinds wouldn't be there. And I didn't feel like going into Horizons just to fix all the keybinds on the SRV and then to find out that it wasn't working there. But then it's like, well, if I'm going to be testing everything, I might as well. And then found out it did work in Horizons. So I was able to fill my mats. But why in the name of F should I have to do that? I mean, what? I know that they fixed the whole gravity thing out at the Guardian sites where shit would be floating in the air, or you'd, shoot a panel and the mat would fly into the air and then stay there. And, that was a problem. That was a problem that they fixed. But
to quote them, they said they turned gravity back on.
Well,
that's what Bruce
cheeky.
said.
Yeah.
That's the tongue-in-cheek way of saying we fixed the problem. We fixed the glitch.
Right.
But I'm not a programmer, and we always try to guess, what the hell happened with stuff. And I cannot even begin to fathom what thing could possibly have caused that.
Oh, no, I've got a decent idea of what it is.
Okay.
So the correction for stuff that floats up is to mess around because things spawn in, and they usually, in order to take advantage of collision, all the proper collision detection and stuff that's built into the game, they'll spawn something slightly above the ground so that it drops in and settles. That's why you see bodies do that and that type of stuff. So have a good feeling that they thought that the floating materials bug was related to that somehow, and they changed where things spawn in. And I bet you they're either being pushed or spawning underground.
No, because I can run them over
They'll
and
fly out
they'll
of panels
move.
in the
Or they're
sky.
They'll
or they're
bounce-
too
bounce
low
off
to be
the
picked
SRV.
up. Yeah,
I've watched them bounce into the air.
It's the second item. And so the thing is, like, the thing that was broken before was Guardian sites, not
Yes.
the SRV generally, whereas the
Right,
bug now is the SRV generally. So I was flying out to the crystal shards, actually. I filled up all my raw mats a couple of days ago as well. And just for kicks, I tried it in Odyssey, knowing that this was happening. But it was, like you could jump in the air and scoop a mat and then, shoot another piece off and jump in the air to scoop it, which I do all the time. But the second one won't take, no matter what.
It won't
It's just
scoop.
sitting
Okay.
on it's
the
the scoop
SRV.
itself.
Yeah.
The SRV's scoop itself just gets busted after
Yeah,
the first
something
one.
with the inventory. But what's weird is because it's like two different inventories.
It's just the scoop. The scoop only
the
works
scoop.
once.
It's so bizarre.
It's a single-use scoop.
And it's engineering mats which take no inventory. It's not like you're trying to scoop one.
Right.
Of the
Well,
cats.
It's
it's
inventory
both.
things
It's
too.
both.
Yeah, it's the second time you scoop, it doesn't work
Hmm.
per instantiation
Like-
of your SRV.
Yeah, like when I couldn't
Oh.
grab the mats for synthesis and stuff, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just try grabbing some more weapon blueprints. I don't need any more, but since I'm here, I'll just do that. But I had already scooped one engineering mat, so I couldn't pick up a relic in order to
Activate the thing. Yeah.
activate the thing. So it was crazy. And then can we discuss the CG FSD? Is that something?
Oh, jeez.
Put it on the table. That finally came today, by the way.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
And DJ Wiley actually hopped in our Discord earlier. Is this the right place to rant about this? And I said, I'll rant about it on the podcast tonight because it's freaking, it's goddamn insanity, to tell you the truth. Because the first double engineered FSD they put out,
go through the
you
whole
could
saga.
put an
Go through it all.
experimental on. Yeah.
Get your popcorn.
And then the second one they put out, you couldn't. And people are like, why the hell can't we do this? And
Because it gave some strange generic like server error when you tried to do it, right?
Yeah, but what she said is that she said they came out and they said, well, you could never do it. I don't know why this is surprised. And it's like, no, we could do it. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Let's review the tape.
Yeah.
And then they relented and said, oh, okay, well, we'll fix it. And they fixed it like the next day. And now this one comes out, and they had promised that they would let us know ahead of time if we would be able to, do experimental effects on stuff. Not only did they not tell us whether we were going to be able to do an experimental effect, they didn't say anything and went weeks without telling anybody where these CG FSDs were and anything about them. Now they finally put them out, and they can't have the experimental again. But they had it the first time where you could do it with no problems. Then they had it where you couldn't, and then they fixed it before. Why can't they fix it this time? I don't understand. Dio Symbiont said, he says, well, at this point, I can't blame the suits. I got to blame the programmers. I still blame the suits because at the end of the day, this is a management issue. If you don't have people that can fix this shit, you need to hire people that can fix this shit if you're a billion-dollar company. Just saying.
Because the CMs came out and said these are delayed because we broke the experimental ability.
And they said it's a distinct problem too. It's whatever coding thing happened is not the same as what they adjusted last time.
Do you believe them?
I have nothing. I mean, why not? Why not? I mean, you turn on gravity at a Guardian site and suddenly the SRV can't scoop more than once. I'll believe anything.
Yeah, but the last time they said with the FSDs is, well, you couldn't do it before, so why should you do it now? And it's like, well, that's what it was.
They didn't exactly say that. They said it was never intended to have experimentals. And then we were all like, yeah, but that's kind of the whole point. And it was sort of like a disconnect between the CMs who probably knew people put experimentals on it versus the programmers who are not connected to the players at all and don't have any idea. But, and that was just, it was an adjustment that was made. But so this is some other, I don't know. What it says to me is something changed about the way they code these modules, these double engineered modules, probably because of the whole fiasco. They changed the way it looks in the menu to make it clear that this is a double engineered module. And if you go trying to apply some other engineering, you're going to break it forever and never be able to get it back. And they wanted to warn everybody strongly about all this when they have these modules, probably because they're dealing with support calls about it. And whatever they had to change about the way these modules are coded broke experimentals, but they know, at least they've gone through the fiasco the first time, so they know we want them. But so they were waiting, trying to fix it. Now they decided, well, we're just going to put them out without the fix. And then, later in lore, there'll be a firmware update.
So you can play with them for the time being. But I've got a theory. All right, here we go. Here's tinfoil hat theory. They just recently came out that, asking about engineering rebalancing and all of that stuff, yada, yada. We're going to be doing that. We haven't heard anything since they asked the question about all the rebalancing. What if, when they talked about rebalancing and everything else, the guy who actually knew how to do the engineering stuff didn't want anything changed, got pissed and quit, and now they don't know how to do anything.
You're going to hear me make a similar statement later, so go on with that.
Love it.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm with you, DJ. It's kind of ridiculous, and they can, say what they want, but honestly, we just want our game to work. And the fact that they come up with new bugs that in the past they figured out a way to fix somehow that they didn't think was a bug, and now they can't fix it because it's a distinct problem now. It's completely different from what happened before. How, I don't know, but I'm sure there's some back-end stuff that changes with everything, and we all talk about, the spaghetti code and all of that. So
when none of us really know how games are made at all.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I don't know. Never mind. I'm dropping it now. I just felt like bitching about those.
It's very frustrating.
It made for a frustrating week of gaming for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I did fly out I would go to refill my raw mats, and so I haven't been to the crystal shards in literally years. And I thought, I'll try the new Odyssey, like hunting for them kind of method. And for one thing, I got to test out the fun new SRV bug, but that's not the only bug that goes on, because in Odyssey, like from my experimentation, even though I couldn't scoop them, I still drove around and shot a few of them just to prove that I could do it. And I found that like about every fifth or sixth one was not shootable by the SRV, and I had to get out and shoot it with my rifle to get it off of the shard tree or whatever you'd call it.
You're making my eye twitch. Stop.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Back to this update. So let's talk BGS. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Actually, not nearly as long a list as some of the updates have been, but a few of the things were BGS stuff, and I think this is probably the biggest deal aspect of it. I think most of this is aimed at anarchy factions.
A lot of it, yes.
Yeah, because they didn't really have a way to gain influence anymore, and they were all bleeding like crazy. So, somebody besides me talk, I guess, about BGS.
All right. So, first major change is that the pirate attack special state causes the faction that is undergoing pirate attack to lose influence, and there's beginning to be some early evidence trickling in that it's 1% per tick that transfers from the faction undergoing the pirate attack to the local anarchy faction. Meaning
it can only happen when there is a local anarchy faction?
Yes, and we don't know what happens if there's more than one local anarchy faction yet either. So the only places we've seen this happen so far are systems where there's only one anarchy. And we don't know what happens if there's more than one faction undergoing pirate attack either. So it looks like it's going to be a little 1% transfer. Not a lot, but it's something. And then they also changed it where criminal factions, which is a FDF way of saying anarchies, can no longer experience security states. Basically, you can't put them into lockdown and that type of stuff by going ape and shooting all of their people.
Okay.
which is a nice break to prevent the anarchy factions from crashing.
When people are murder hoboing in order
right.
to fill up their engineer unlocks and
So
stuff.
so basically, they shrug off murder hoboing.
What a
whatever.
superpower.
Yeah, hey, that's their superpower.
That's an awesome verb, by the way.
You can kill me all you want. You'll never hurt me.
Yeah, we don't care. Kill them all.
You strike me down, I should become more powerful. Yada yada.
And scene.
And see. So they made a pretty cool change that if a faction gets pushed into a civil unrest state now, it opens up a black market on the stations they control, which is pretty nifty because there are a lot of factions that absolutely prohibit black markets. And civil unrest is what happens when your security gets pushed all the way down by murder hoboing. So
are black markets good for anything besides that one engineer that you need them to unlock?
Black markets are a key BGS lever because selling things at a black market reduces the controlling faction's influence.
There you go.
And it is one of the only direct negative levers you can apply to somebody. There are a lot of things you can do to lower one faction by raising another, because it's all a zero-sum game. Black markets are one of the only levers where you can directly lower somebody.
Okay.
So that's pretty interesting. It's a lot of work to push somebody into civil unrest, though. And one of the side effects of civil unrest...
We push Chig into civil unrest right now.
Yeah, we push Chig into psychosis.
That happened years before I met you people. Come on.
Yeah.
Claiming credit.
I showed up here that way. Good Lord.
He was damaged when he got here. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
The big change is they made a change in terms of how markets affect BGS. So prior to update 10, if you sold commodities at a station and made a profit, it was a positive BGS lever. And if you sold commodities at a station and you lost money, it was a negative BGS lever. So they made two big changes, surprisingly, at the same time that impact markets. One of those is you now have a positive BGS lever for buying things from a market, not just selling. And they've now tied, and I have to say their quote because we have no idea what this actually means. You can now support a faction by buying commodities from it based on satisfying available supply at its commodity market.
Yeah. So a little bit of further conversation, just if you sift through like 50 pages of the forum thread, the CMs continue to reply to a few questions.
Oh, good.
And the only further clarifying about that seems to be high demand commodities have a greater impact, and more valuable commodities have a greater impact versus low demand or low value. So high-priced things for which there's a high demand or a high supply, whether you're buying or selling, will have the greatest of that available impact.
And unfortunately, that tells us exactly nothing.
Right.
Because
about how much that impact actually is.
Well, no, it actually doesn't give us any information because prior to update 10, the amount of impact was based on how much profit or loss you made selling that commodity.
Oh.
And the price for that commodity is driven by the demand level and how inherently valuable it is.
So it was based on the commander doing it, not on the station.
No.
Right?
No.
Honestly, think about this for a minute, though. If something has a lot of supply that you can buy, or it is a high-priced commodity, that just means you're spending more credits purchasing stuff. Couldn't they just have done an overly complicated way of saying how it would affect the BGS more if it's a more expensive or there's a higher supply?
Exactly. So we don't know if this is an actual change or if they're just sloppily telling us how it already works. Other than the fact that
Other than the fact that it adds selling.
buying. It adds buying. Yeah, that's a new change. But how the supply and demand affect it, this may be a completely new mechanic, or it may be a ham-handed way of telling us how the mechanic already worked. There's a lot of testing going on right now to try to confirm a whole bunch of that stuff. But
okay, my psychosis is growing.
and they've done this stuff before, where they've attempted to quote unquote clarify how something works, and they've just muddied the water by restating how it already works.
Right. Interesting.
And I would like to think that they've actually made a change here, because I do believe that anything that brings us closer to a more active economy is a good thing. Anything that allows us to influence prices and ties it to the BGS is probably a good thing. But there's no real evidence that they've actually done it yet.
Okay.
But
so all the CQC I've been playing and all the bug killing, has that been helping us at all?
Not a bit.
Okay.
Yes, Chick, you're doing great.
You are
It's
still
helped a
doing
lot.
0. Keep it up.
You're welcome.
The big takeaway is they added another positive lever with buying from a station, which may end up being a two-edged sword, because we already have some systems that are very difficult to control, or are out of control because of their markets, and we just added another lever to them. So it remains to be seen how that shakes out. And they've added a pretty interesting mechanic with being able to force black markets to appear, and how pirate attack now works to bleed influence off of the faction undergoing it.
Which makes perfect sense as a game mechanic. Yeah. So probably, we agree. Probably this is an attempt to give the positive levers to anarchy factions they were missing a few of the bigger positive levers that we usually use for non-anarchy factions.
Correct.
Bounties.
Bounty hunting. Yeah, bounty hunting's humongous. So, but unfortunately, you can't do that without doing it to the rest of the galaxy. So we'll see.
This was not mentioned in the patch notes, but there have been some reports I've seen come in that they rebalanced the effect that missions have on the BGS, and increased it fairly substantially.
Okay.
But let's leave that under the category of rumor right now until we shake this out for a couple of days and really confirm it.
But that would potentially even out things for an anarchy faction, which can still run missions even if they can't do bounties. Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Okay, so that follows.
It does.
Nifty.
Lots of moving pieces. We'll have to see how it shakes out. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Cool. I feel like I vaguely understand it, actually. Am I lying to myself?
Oh, I did that good?
I honestly, I feel pretty great. That was awesome. Thank you.
You're at the beginning of the Dunning-Kruger effect curve.
Yeah, I learned what an anarchy faction was, and I was like, I'm going to start my own faction. Here we go. Buckle up. Taking over the galaxy.
That sounds like a good idea.
And just for reference, I don't think have you mentioned lately how many systems we're in control, stations we control,
that's
and
awesome.
Talk about
population?
How great we are.
Talk about how well we're in 28 systems. We control 19 of them at the moment. And the population as of this afternoon is 11.5 billion souls.
Wow.
And if this expansion goes correctly, we'll add about 3 billion to that total.
Yikes.
Does that mean we're murdering them all? Where their souls?
No, they're still in bodies.
Oh, they're still in bodies?
Yeah, at least until Bard gets a hold of them.
It'd be much easier to manage if they were all dead.
It would, wouldn't it?
I'm just saying. We'll get Bard and Teflon on that right away.
Just replace them all with androids and go from there.
Well, let's see here. Hold on. Squadron.
Yeah, we're
Loose Screws podcast. Am I allowed to change this to anarchy?
No,
I don't think so.
11 installations.
Okay.
We're not allowed to become an anarchy, everybody.
I always like to, mention to new players stuff like that because, sometimes we forget. We play the game so freaking much that, that means that our name is on the mission boards in 29 systems right now, which is pretty freaking cool, really. You fly to any of these stations and you'll see the Loose Screws Network, or what are we called in game? Loose Screws
Podcast
Screws
network.
Yeah.
Loose Screws Network. Okay, yeah. So
that's true. Yeah.
we're in game at stations. You can go see it, and if you come to the Discord and help us with BGS, you're a part of that group that's actually alive in the galaxy, and there's tons of player factions. I still remember being a new player and having no idea that those were anything. I was like, here's some mission crap, all right, but it's actually people doing shit.
Or you just help us blindly. Attempting to help us blindly can be very detrimental.
Yeah, I was about to say the same. Have the same thought. If you're not coming into Discord and you're coming and doing missions for Loose Screws, I bet a lot of the time you are working against us. You are one of the things that we can't control and are constantly trying to cool down.
And to quote Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, "Wild card, bitches, I approve."
And based on population, Loose Screws, controlled population, Loose Screws is the 55th ranked faction, and Lave Radio is 35th. They are about 3 billion, just shy of 3 billion ahead of us. So with this next expansion, we have a chance to catch and pass them.
Ooh, got to do that. That way I can go on their show. I can go on their show and be like, "Suck it, Lave," and then leave.
Hillbilly Redneck Radio, hot on your heels. The old world systems, they call them.
Yeah, well, of course, it should be mentioned that Lave Radio, that's named Lave Radio because they are based out of the Lave system. Lave has a population of like 20 billion.
So they got all their people handed to them on a silver platter.
Yeah,
they just got put there, man.
But yeah, ridiculous. we are 2.8 billion behind them. So, in 12 days or so, when this next expansion goes off, we will be in position to catch and pass them.
Ooh, it's on.
Yeah. Audible knuckle cracking. Am I right?
Yeah,
you are right.
I'll start cracking on this BGS stuff right away.
Yeah, just as soon as I get back from the Witch Head.
Yeah, as soon as I get back from the Witch Head, I'll get back and I will help.
Is that
Xeno bonds help anywhere?
No, unfortunately, they don't.
Oh, okay. Because I've got like 200 million in my thing right now.
And Terra X Astro is 25th at 18.1 billion. So we've got a little bit to go before we catch Astro.
All right.
Yeah. Wow. At least we've got goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, okay. So that everybody could skip it, but I ranted for a long time about my experiences in VR in Odyssey. And that got some discussion going, and Alec Turner shared it on the forums, and some discussion continued to happen and stuff like that. So to new people, hi, this is normally what we're like. Just solid ranting, just like the episode that was your introduction to this show. It's this all the time, 100% of the time.
All salt
all the time.
Move brain salt, though. We're not smart people.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think we're fun, but if your mileage may vary.
I didn't dispute fun. I just said smart. We're not.
Okay. So I'm not going to rant like that again about VR. However, as I've been getting in and kind of doing some testing and things like that, some things keep sticking in my mind. And part of this goes back to a long time ago when people were creating these AFK builds that could sit in like a low res site and just use auto turrets to and cargo in the lure cargo in the hold to just sit there and make bounty money while you're AFK. So just as an experiment, like I put one of these together to see what would happen, and Dubs had the same experience. But what would happen is after several hours, we'd come back to the computer and find that the game is running at like 10 or 12 frames per second. But the GPU, CPU are not loaded. Like the game is literally just waiting between drawing frames. It's not utilizing the GPU more than 10 or 15% or something like that. This is on powerful hardware, but nevertheless, it's not, it's not like getting close to its power ceiling and thus can't draw frames fast enough. And we thought this is interesting. Like it has to be, I think, something to do with the AI pathing for all the ships and stuff. And it just sort of stacks and builds up over time. And, it feels like in computers, what you might call a memory leak, right? Like things just pile up and performance gets worse and worse and worse over time. Okay, so this happens, this is months ago. And I remember it because it's conspicuous, right? It's this thing where the computer's running, the game is running very slow and the hardware is not being utilized nearly. And I remember having sort of a weird performance around things where they'd have a community goal or something at a station, and there's just a ton of ships all there, like just a ton of NPC ships all buzzing around, plus some players and things like that. And there's a lot of activity at this one station, and it's just unusually poor performance at those places. And you could be fooled into thinking that it's the graphics having to draw all those ships that are slowing it down. But like I said, like very powerful hardware was being slowed down when it didn't deserve to be. And way back then, I didn't check at the time, but I bet if we called up a performance meter and measure the utilization, we'd find that once again, it was the same feature of the Elite game engine where engine is for some reason just taking a long time to create frames, and the GPU and the CPU are not too slow to draw them, right? They're just not even being utilized. So along those lines, I'm finding things like that happen in Odyssey. And this goes all the way back to the alpha, where I'd be sitting there, just kind of checking out how poorly things are performing in the alpha and looking and realizing, well, shoot, I'm dropping into the 40s, sometimes lower than that, even on flat screen, but my GPU is only at like 50 or 60%. So what's going on there? Like, why isn't it utilizing my hardware? Why is it slowing down like this when it doesn't need to?
Can I ask one quick question there?
Yeah.
What's the RAM doing? I mean,
well, it's probably not the right color. Is that where we're going?
Well, no. I'm actually curious if it's leaving memory, in your RAM. It's not purging everything as it's rendering new stuff. I just that was occurring to me when you were talking about it, as if that slowly is filling up, and because like Chrome, the more Chrome tabs you have, the more RAM is also getting eaten up. It eats it like Pac-Man and power pellets, and and if this is doing the same kind of thing, I don't know. It's just an idea. I didn't know if you had looked at that or not.
Well, I wasn't paying close attention to it, but I will say that, like, if you open up Task Manager, so that's a performance meter that everybody has. You don't have to have some special software. If you just open up the Task Manager to the Performance tab, when something gets pegged, it turns progressively darker yellows until it turns red. And I will say that the memory has never been lit, so to speak. Okay. I do show that, like, I didn't note specifically the RAM usage, but like right now, for example, it's using... I just closed it right before I was about to read it to you. Elite's using 1.5 gigs.
Okay,
of
RAM.
RAM.
So nothing.
It's nothing. I mean, my whole system is only
but
using
what it's
half
using,
of its memory.
what if it's leaving stuff in there, so all of your RAM isn't available?
Like if that was the problem when we were doing these, where we're leaving it running for a long time,
leaving fragments of shit in your RAM. I don't know.
Okay, but the thing that I'm leading up to here. So when I turned on update 10, the first thing I did was walk into the nearest concourse and see, like, this has glass and shadows. Maybe my performance will be better. So, and I test everything in VR because that's my whole thing. Like, if I do something on a flat screen, I'm generally not going to notice performance problems because my hardware is too powerful for the most part. So I put it into VR, I go into the concourse, and right away I'm like, wow, this is a lot better. Like, it's hugely better. Like, performance is fantastic. Like, it's not even in reprojection. It's maintaining 80 frames or better. This is great. And as I wander around, then I realize all the NPCs are missing, all the store vendors. So apparently this is a thing that happens, and sometimes you just have to menu log to get the NPC store vendors to come back. But that's the thing. So then I try a different place. Once the vendors are back, everything's back to normal, and I can't measure a performance difference. And so one other time I'm playing along, testing out things. I'm running some mission, and so I just dropped down to a station. Should say a settlement. Got to learn the lingo. The Odyssey lingo. So I dropped down to a settlement. The worst performance in the game in VR is when you are approaching a surface settlement and you're still in your ship. That is the hardest thing to run. And I think it's just, I think the game needs probably some more LODs.
Especially when you're like trying to smush people on the ground and you nose down to the ground surface, it goes to single frames for me.
It loads like the actual on ground close up textures.
Yeah. It's bad.
So it turns into like less than 40 frames when I'm approaching a station from the air. I land. I get out. At that point, it's basically on flat screen, so performance improves a bit, but then you're at a settlement, which is sort of one of the higher detail areas, and it doesn't get that much better. But I discovered that I got there, performance was terrible, landed, killed everybody, because that's the way to do basically every Odyssey mission, unless it specifically says don't kill somebody. So I just murdered everybody.
Even then you can kill them.
But that's another topic, yeah.
That's another topic, okay.
Yeah.
So I kill everybody, and then I was actually supposed to in this case, but whatever. I kill everybody, and then I get back in my ship and I take off, and it's noticeably better. Now, the thing is, I'm thinking, like, as I'm approaching the settlement, it's like performance here is terrible. Look at the detail on this settlement as I'm approaching. Like, this is way more detailed than ship models would be if they were this far away. And then the people load in and all their flashlights load in, and it just gets so rough. And I'm thinking, there's no LODs for any of these human shapes, like it's probably drawing their eyeballs and hair. I mean, that's what was discovered in the alpha. That probably hasn't been called yet. It's ridiculous.
Keep in mind, remember when Dubs got close to me in Super Cruise, the ship model drew in Super Cruise. Why would it bother to do that? Just leave it a glowy in Super Cruise. So it gets to draw everything all the time.
Since well before Odyssey released, you could see ships in Super Cruise. It's a lot more common in Odyssey.
No, but what I'm saying is it's just another way that the engine works. It draws frickin' everything.
Well, but that's sort of a tangent. But so the thing is, I do think that there are some LODs that could be improved here. Like, we don't need to be drawing as detailed a model of all of these buildings and all of the ground. There's a lot going on in a settlement, and we need to cheapen it from farther away, right? That'll get some improvement.
Yeah, call the shit out of everything.
The bodies, like the actual NPC, the human shapes, I can't tell that they have any LODs. If they do, they're very well hidden. They probably need a lot more. We need to turn them into blobs with flashlights from a certain distance, and that'll probably help. But the thing is, in all of these situations, it's a little tough to tell in VR because we have that reprojection where it'll go into half frame rate. So it's hard to say, like, my GPU isn't even being pegged here. I can turn the reprojection off, and then you can tell a real number, like how many raw frames can my computer run in this scene, And so we can do stuff like that. But the thing is, I murder everybody and I get back in my ship and performance is a lot better. Now, the thing is, all those bodies are still there. So the game still loaded all those player models. So it's not loading less detail now. The difference is the AI. They're not thinking, they're not pathing, they're not doing whatever it is they're programmed to do. And that's the thing. I see it over and over again. I can create all these situations where there's a lot of complicated stuff going on in a scene with AI. The game slows down and the GPU is not being totally utilized. And I can load it up in flat screen to prove it so that I'm not having to deal with any of the weird VR stuff. But it's like it's waiting between frames. It's like it's doing something else. And the CPU isn't pegged either, by the way. I mean, my CPU never goes over like 35%. And yet we have these massive slowdowns. And then, of course, the kind of the crown on my point here is that I notice it being considerably better after all the NPCs are dead. So, I want help. I want people to test this. I want you to try it out. Everyone, if you can hear my voice, please try this out. Like, measure your performance. Preferably, like, I don't know if you have to uncap your frame rate or whatever, to like just get to where you can see an actual number that will scale and change. Not like, well, I was 60 before and I'm 60 now. Like, let's uncap the frames and actually see what the number is so that you can measure a change, if there is one. I imagine that this is something where like powerful hardware is going to have an experience similar to mine. Whereas if your graphics card is struggling to run the game at all, whatever I'm noticing that I think is happening with the AI is probably not going to matter, right? But I want to know. I want everybody to test it and say like, okay, look, so the 1060s of the world don't notice any difference between murdered NPCs and not murdered NPCs, but anybody with like a 30 series card or a 6000 series card does. And see what this is all about.
So check your performance before and after you kill everybody.
Yeah, basically pick out a similar scene, approach a settlement with everybody there, murder everybody. Now there's everyone dead. There's no AI going on, and basically view the same scene and measure it. Is there a difference? And because I want to be disproven here, like I want to stop yelling about it if this is nonsense. This is just something that I've observed.
There's a few ideas that I have in mind. I mean, there's a lot of smart computer people who could probably hook up a graph that would show performance, especially like a settlement that you get into, and see if as each NPC dies, you're getting incremental improvement from each one, or if there's any AI running at all. Is it on off, or is it an incremental thing? The more AI running, the more in depth it gets.
Right.
Also,
and you would think it's the second one, because like if you go down to like a signal source on a surface and there's like 6 AI there, those situations perform fine for me.
But that's what I was going to say. Is do you notice a lot of times? Let's say you're at an irregular marker, the one with the 3 or 2 cargo things that you walk into, and then AI will drop on your head sometimes. A drop ship will come in. Do you go? Your performance already all of a sudden drop when that drop ship appears? Because now you're getting AI.
For me, basically, no. Like on a surface, it's obviously not as good as in space, but that's true for Horizons too. It doesn't feel much different from Horizons, from flying in space to going down to a surface, until I approach an actual settlement. That's when things go crazy. And some of that is definitely because of the extra graphic detail and stuff, but it's probably also the density of AI.
Settlements too. Have you done reboot missions yet? Sometimes
Not since like the alpha.
Okay, when you come into the reboot settlements, they're offline, and even if you got the alert that there'll be scavengers, sometimes they don't come in until you get really close to the settlement. So they won't be there until after you get there. So you could then see where you were at. Dropship comes in, AI is added to the mix, and see if you get an uptick at that point too, is another place to test.
Okay, so in that situation, I actually see 3 points. So you're approaching the settlement, then the AI loads in, but their models do too. Because what I'm trying to decouple is actual graphics detail issues versus something else like that I think is the AI, this other X factor or whatever. So now you load in those models, performance presumably tanks, then we murder all of them. The models still exist in the scene, but they're dead, so they're not pathing anymore. So that's point 3.
Yeah, and I was with Dropship coming in is all of a sudden there wasn't AI there, then there is.
Right.
So seeing if that triggers the drop in performance, and if you can have a real time, a graph, just a line graph going, showing your peaks and valleys.
There are softwares that can do that,
I know,
like that you'll see from. But I honestly, I don't get into any of that, so I don't expect everybody else to. If you want to, like, absolutely, I'd be perfectly happy to see. Oh, Dubs could draw this up in a second, I'm sure.
I'd
be perfectly happy to see people open their task manager to the performance tab, and there's a quick little graph that'll have your CPU, memory, GPU. It also has disks and Ethernet all on one little panel, and it'd be a quick little thing to take a screenshot of, a couple of screenshots, right? Of, here I am approaching a settlement full of AI. Here's the same scene after I kill the thing. And it's a little bit of a graph over time too, so you can see like an average trend.
See, I had a real weird one when I did that like 4 weeks where all I did is Odyssey stuff. Unlocked all the engineers, did all that stuff, and this is the weird one that I had. Excuse me. Is I thought that remember I had pulled apart my graphics card and put new thermal paste on, and I was getting ready to do the same with my CPU. Doesn't run hot all the time, but when I was doing these ground missions, sometimes randomly, I normally run, I don't know, under 85 for sure, under 80 most of the time. I get warm. I don't even get hot per se for a CPU. But all of a sudden, I would be jumping up to like 98, and there was nothing I could do. And my frames would drop to 5, 6, and my heat would be way through the roof like that, and I'd have no idea why. I'd reboot Elite and then it would be fine. So I don't know what Elite was doing, causing just my CPU to all of a sudden run super hot. And the load wasn't super high. It wasn't like I was using 90 or 100% of my CPU at the time. The CPU was just getting hot randomly. And it was, I couldn't figure out what it was. And, I was going to put new thermal paste and stuff, even though it was so weird. I didn't think that was going to be the issue. I never did do that. And I have not had that issue come up once in CQC or bug hunting or anything ever. Just during that ground stuff, during that month that I was doing that, it happened maybe a dozen times over the course of the month. And, I was trying to half-ass try to troubleshoot it. But as I said, it would happen. I could not get my frame rates to come back. I'd reboot Elite and then it'd be fine. So there's some weird stuff. I just don't
Very
know.
interesting that you notice that it's not fully utilized, but it's like maxing out on thermals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it was so weird.
And especially because if it's maxing out on thermals, it's probably clocking down at this point. Because that's what they do for safety.
Which that's why it was dropping down.
If you're still running programs, that should make your utilization go up.
Yep.
Right? Because if your clock drive,
it's throttling you, exactly.
Yeah, because if your graphics card is sitting idle, it's just drawing Windows desktop.
Yep.
You could see like a 5 or 6 or sometimes 10% utilization on the GPU when you just like open any window. And it's like, no, that's not using 10% of my 3080. It's because my 3080 is clocking itself at 215 megahertz instead of 2040 whatever that it boosts to, And of course, then once it needs power, once it adds power draw, like, oh shoot, you're drawing some fancy graphics, let me turn myself on, and then suddenly that would be like a fraction of a decimal point,
And all of this though is all, just anecdotal without doing, like you said, getting more data from people and breaking it down, because, you're talking, look at your frame rates and stuff. And honestly, for me, when Odyssey first launched in a station, I'd be running between 30 and 60 frames and unpredictable. It just go up and down while I'm in a station. Now I run from 70 to 90, sometimes dip down to 60, sometimes over 100, so the performance has gotten better for my system. But to say how many frames I'm running in a station, it's a 50 frame variant. I have no idea. If the wall's blue for some reason, I'm getting better performance. I have no idea what the fuck's going on. It's just.
Are you saying in a station in your ship or in a concourse?
In a concourse, yeah. Get out of my ship, walk around a concourse. Check to see what weapons are available. Go see if there's a war going on, and my frames, kind of ride a roller coaster while I'm in there. There's no consistency at all.
Okay, so. I'm just noticing that my game is running at 91, 92 hertz. And my graphics is at 40%. My CPU is at 25%, 23%.
Is this in your VR?
No, I'm in flat mode for the podcast. In fact, I have it in a 1080p window. I'm not even using my whole monitor. So and it's 40% usage. So my GPU can run more than twice this many frames. Why is it not going up to 100, which is what it's V-synced to? Why is it running 92? I am floating in space staring at my carrier. I'm floating around my carrier right now. 92 frames, no utilization of my hardware. So what is slowing it down right now? This I want to know. So, okay, for science, we need this to be simple and repeatable. So everybody is doing the same thing. And then it's actual scientific data, right? So I want to take away as many variables as possible. Obviously, this is ridiculous to try to control all this when there's random people, hopefully, who are going to volunteer to help out with this. So I'm just saying, take a little bit of time out of your normal gameplay, turn on Task Manager to the Performance tab, put it behind Elite or whatever, but just have it there so you can take a screenshot of it when you need to. Go to a settlement, any settlement, I pretty much don't care, just anywhere where you're planning on killing everyone. And measure performance. Just stare at the scene for a little while, measure performance. So you have a pretty good idea. Oh, it's sitting near 30% utilization, whatever it is. I want to see, I'm going to document your frame rate or, general average, and then your utilization of CPU, GPU, and I guess why not RAM? And then kill everybody and then measure the same thing again in basically the same scene if you can help it. That's it.
Remember, like the great Adam Savage said, the difference between messing around and science is writing it down.
Yeah. Write it down. Write it down. I want to know those 2 points. Let's not get too much more complicated than that, because that way everybody's doing more or less the same thing. And I just want to see if other people have this experience. And I want to see, obviously it's important like what your hardware is, but generally speaking, if lower powered hardware won't see this phenomena because it's struggling to draw the frames in the first place, it's pegged at 99% to begin with, I don't know. But let's see it, because especially on flat, when VR isn't an issue, you should be able to peg your GPU at 99 or 100%. That's the way it works with games. That's the way it's supposed to work anyway. So if your game is slowing down, drawing frames slower than you want it to, and it's not at 100%, I suggest that there is a problem there. I would like to get the data. So very much appreciate you all listening to me mumble about nonsense. And as soon as you do this, I urge you to turn the frames per second monitor off and try to enjoy yourself, for God's sake, because
you do stop thinking about it eventually. You stop thinking about it.
It is so much more fun if you turn that stupid frames monitor off. Hey, it just went up to 100. Why did it just go up to 100?
That's outside your
You were
carrier?
talking about it.
I'm just drifting. I'm literally just like in a slow orbit around my carrier.
That's weird. I mean, I'm at 100.
I see. If I face the end that the bridge is on, no, it dropped back to 92, and I can't get it to come back to 100 no matter which way I face.
Yeah, see, your software's or hardware is way better than mine, and I'm 122, 128, 132, 130,
Well, we have different graphics detail settings probably too.
Well, I have everything turned max. I don't even have everything turned max. I have my VR settings on, which has a couple of things turned down, like shadows are only on high and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, flying into my carrier, I was pegged at 144, which my monitor's at. And then I get to my carrier, I'm 130.
You've got to be running like 4 times the pixels of me, or nearly, right? 3440 by 1400, 1440?
Yep, 1440 by 3560.
So you're running like almost 3 times as many pixels as me, too.
Yeah.
Isn't this game bonkers?
It's just weird. And my CPU utilization is 50% right now.
Yeah.
My GPU is chugging at 75, 78, 74, 80,
okay, and
in that range.
And that's a 2080 Super?
2080 period.
2080 period. And what CPU?
i7 8700K, overclocked just a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
But my memory for some reason is my memory is at 24 gig being used. It's saying 24 of 32.
Wow.
But when I go over to processes, what's using, and nothing's using that much.
Just adding up over all your processes.
It must be.
So Elite is now using it's given up 400 megabytes of RAM. It's using 1100 now.
So it unloaded your bridge.
It's not continuing to add more to the RAM without giving it up. So, for what that's worth.
Weird.
Is this just the best podcast talk? You know what's funny is we've had those podcast episodes where we just like talked about computer hardware like the whole time.
People love them.
And everybody comments like, "Oh, that was such a great episode." And the whole time I'm recording it, we've done it like 3 or 4 times. Every single time I'm cringing in my chair for like an hour going, "This is such bad content. Why are we doing this?" And it's always the one people comment on.
We're talking to nerds, man. They like nerd stuff, so it's all good. We're not nerds, obviously.
not.
We're way
No,
too
no, no.
cool.
Those other
Really
guys.
not.
Yeah.
Please.
Those other guys, good God.
All right. Is there any other business that we should put into this episode?
No, I was going to do a cheese, but then I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was going to get a vegan cheese at the store today, and then
What
I
even
just
is
couldn't
that?
bring myself.
What?
Yeah, there's vegan cheese. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you don't kill the cow to make the cheese. Why do you? I don't know, but
Probably likes it. Probably
No,
likes
but
being
I
milked.
saw
They love
it
being
looks like real
Yeah.
cheese. But
That's the title.
No.
That's the title.
it looks like real cheese.
That's the one. You did it.
But then I couldn't bring myself to spend like $7 for a small little block of cheese that isn't cheese. I don't know. That's completely random. My bad.
It looks
I'll
like
try it for
real
next
cheese.
week, maybe.
All
Maybe we'll
right.
do a whole show on vegan cheeses.
As we're exiting,
Is it made out of plastic?
What's
Yeah,
that?
hey,
Shout out to some community folks. Sirius from AXI giving us all this friendly call outs and recognizing Chig when you were over at the AXI Discord.
Yeah, that was
And
pretty cool,
Commander
actually.
Dio for being much more present than he previously had been. And to you, the listener, I want to give a shout out to you.
Let me
And-
give a quick shout out to Manituk too. It's good to see you hanging out in Discord again and coming out for a couple of the events. I know
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
after the
Amen.
passing of your
Yes.
life was a little bit rough and stuff. I'm glad that we're here for you.
Right on. And I actually, since we're doing it, I'm going to shout out Steve. You know who you are, buddy.
I'm going to
You
shout
guys
out
laugh.
Karen.
That's going to mean a lot to that one guy.
Giving a shout out to all the Karens.
Oh, man.
Maybe they won't yell at me. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I think that's all we can.
Yeah.
Run away. Run away.
All right. Thanks for listening. Please. Oh, you know what? I didn't tell anybody what to do with these screenshots. Can we take over Chig Chat for that? Is that okay?
I don't care. Yeah, that's fine. Send them all there. Or
Right on.
why not just hardware? Wait, what screenshots?
Because the of this testing I'm asking people
Yeah,
to
well,
do.
hardware. That's kind of.
Oh, fine.
It didn't have to be
Yeah.
screenshots, right? Could you just list?
You could
Text.
list it. I feel like screenshots would be easier to show like what your performance metric was, like a little screen cap of Task Manager.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And you could even line it up with the FPS counter that's in Elite. By the way, Control F will show a little green FPS counter in the lower left corner.
Where you were, if there were NPCs present.
Yeah, and I'd love to know like if you have like high end or low end hardware, just whatever. We'll try to keep it sort of simple. Yeah, so okay, put it in the hardware channel. Maybe I'll even we can do those thread things. Maybe I'll do that. So if you come to our Discord under the category of the workshop, there is a hardware channel. Let's put it there. And thanks so much. So thanks for listening. If you like the show, you know what to do.
Loose screws.
Loose Screws, baby. Give us a review. You can go to the Discord is discord.io/loose screws. And we have a merch store at loosescrews.com. And it's oh man, it's good stuff. So yeehaw. Anyway, thanks very much. And sorry about episode 118. I've been messaged by a couple of people since we've been recording that apparently it's still not fixed. And now
You mean
Google,
both of our listeners use
both of our
Spotify?
listeners on I don't know what the hell's going on because Apple had it correct. I checked a few other platforms and they had it. I even checked Google because somebody told me Google didn't have it and it looked right. But then Crash just told me a few minutes ago that it's, even though the time looks correct, it's still playing episode 117's audio. So,
Well, I'll give my plug for Podcast Addict. It's never let me down. I get notification. I have my notifications for previous day's podcast to come first thing in the morning. So when I get up
Right
at
on.
6:30 in the morning, pick up my phone and it'll tell me how many new podcasts I've got. And Loose Screws is always there.
all right. Well, apparently a lot of people had to watch on YouTube because their usual app didn't work last time. I don't know how to fix it. I'm staring at it. It looks perfect on my end, and there's nothing else I can do because I'm powerless and I don't even pay these people. So,
Well, we'll call that episode the semi-lost episode. I
Right.
think that it has something to do with you weren't hosting, so you're making it harder to find. Look at you. God damn it.
I think it is. I think ultimately the problem is probably my fault because I got you guys recording, and I went to post it, and I grabbed the wrong file and uploaded. I did upload 117's audio on top of this episode. And then immediately somebody, Manitouk, I think, pointed it out to me. And I was like, oh, shoot. Took it down, replaced it with the good audio, and republished. And it published, and I checked on my phone on the Apple Podcast app, and it was like playing the correct audio. And I was like, okay, my job here is done. And then in the morning, everybody's like, it's not on Spotify. And I was like, well, I probably confused. I'm giving a minute. And then a whole week goes by. And this morning, they're like, oh, by the way, your episode's still bullshit. I don't know if I can, I don't know how to fix it. I think, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, Wintermute hopped in just this evening to let us know.
That's
that
what it was.
still
It wasn't
on
even this
Spotify.
morning. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
It was like 2 hours ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. At this point, I don't know if I can even fix it. It's on YouTube if you're a podcast player.
They're not missing anything. It was a trackless episode, so
I thought it was a good
didn't
one.
miss shit.
Okay, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me, Chig, Hate, Data, and Nurgle. And we'll see you clowns next
Stay
week.
fresh, cheese bags.
Fly loose and screwy, yeehaw, and all that.
Bye-bye.